Hello and welcome to the Two Man Booth, your weekly scheduled podcast on the crazy world of professional wrestling. With me, Jonathan.
And me, Adam. And we will start this week as we always do with the news. And I think the first thing we need to talk about is the fact that CM Punk made a very under-the-radar return to professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's under the radar, but since Dave Meltzer's reported that it was actually CM Punk, there's a lot more people now starting to talk about it. Punk was involved in an indie show that his trainer Ace Steel was part of, and when he came out, he was videoed by fans that were there, gave the guy a GTS and helped Ace Steel win the match. When I first saw it, I must be honest, I didn't think it was Punk because he just didn't sort of move like Punk. He didn't look physically like Punk. I think that's purely because Punk's had time away and just isn't the same body shape that he used to be. But Dave Meltzer's made very clear that this is not a CM Punk return to the ring. I think it's like a one-time thing. Both of us would like to hope that it is a return to the ring, maybe the start of him coming back into the world of professional wrestling, but it's certainly interesting.
I think if we do see Punk return, we're going to see it on May 25th. I'll put it that way.
What's happening then?
That's double or nothing, yeah. So I think if he returns then, that's the only chance we'll have to see him return, because I honestly think that's the only place he'd come back, just to kind of throw it in WWE's face a little bit. There's obviously a lot of bitter feeling there, so I think if he doesn't appear at that show, I don't see CM Punk returning to professional wrestling ever.
Is there anybody left that AEW have got signed that hasn't got a big match or something?
It would be more that I think he'd turn up at the end of the show.
Yeah, that's much more like Punk as well, isn't it, to do that?
But we will wait and see on that one. So next up, we have some sad news for somebody that we don't give a lot of love to on this podcast, but Nia Jax will be out for the next 9 months after doing both ACLs. And like I said, we are not big fans of her as a performer, but I don't like to see anybody get injured, so this was very sad news for her. Yeah,
I haven't got much to add. Neither of us are fans of her, but this is awful for any professional wrestler to get this kind of injury, and she's going to be out for some considerable time. Hopefully she comes back, healthy, and we'll see how things go. But this is certainly sad news.
And some AEW news from last week's sort of YouTube shows. We found out that Shima has signed full-time with the company. And we've also seen the guys that we may be seeing Super Smash Bros. In the company as well, which is very exciting to me because I'm big fans of both of those guys.
Yes, first off, Shima is very interesting. I'm not a massive fan of Shima. I much prefer his older work in Toyamon rather than Dragon Gate, just because of the style that he worked in Dragon Gate. But at the same time, if he works the style that he used to, I think he'll be absolutely fantastic. He's maybe not quite what he was, but he's still a name, and he was part of that famous 5-star match from Ring of Honor, the Dragon Gate 6-man tag. Yeah. So that he still has some name value here. And Super Smash Bros., that's obviously the PWG connection with the Young Bucks. They have had some great matches over the years with the Young Bucks as well, so we'll see how that goes. And I'd be interested to see whether their act gets over.
Oh, it will.
Just, in front of a bigger audience. I always wonder whether it'll translate from a smaller crowd to a bigger crowd. We'll see.
Okay, Jim Cornette, calm down over there. So we've also had news that Luke Harper has requested the release from WWE for his contract, but it does not expire until November. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens on that front.
Yeah, he's clearly done, isn't he? So I don't blame him. He's had very little to do for the last, year? And even then before that, it was Bludgeon Brothers, wasn't it? So yeah. I really don't blame him. His career was going nowhere in WWE, and he's a more than talented wrestler who both of us have liked since his days in Ring of Honor and things like that. So more power to him, and hope everything goes well for him.
But coming into the company, Garza Jr. and Shane Strickland have officially signed with the WWE and are now training at the PC alongside Kushida, who started the same day as them. So very cool news for them. Two super talented dudes, and we'll see what they do in NXT.
Yeah, I don't know very much about Garza Jr., I must be honest. I'm not really familiar with his work that much, but I know a lot about Shane Strickland's just from watching Lucha Underground and his character of Killshot, was brilliant and one of the best things about the sort of later series of Lucha Underground. And he's a great wrestler, and he had some fantastic matches, some violent matches as well.
Oh, yeah.
In Lucha Underground, and he's a very talented guy, and under NXT, I think he could do very, very well.
And some other sad news, and we don't want to speculate too much on this, but apparently the reason Daniel Bryan has missed the last couple of SmackDowns is due to an injury he received at Mania. And the bit that really worried me about this report was the fact that supposedly WWE are keeping the nature of his injury secret. And that is a concern.
Yeah, that worries me that it may be something concussion related. And if it is, that is scary. Bryan obviously has a very extensive and long history with concussions. And maybe it's just a precautionary thing in that, Bryan has such a history with that. If he gets one, they now need to be very careful and do some checks on him, which would totally make sense and would be more than something I would support for Bryan.
Yeah.
Because we all want Bryan to be safe. But I want to see Bryan wrestling as much as possible, as safely, of course, but Daniel Bryan's one of my favourite wrestlers on the planet, and it'd be a shame.
We can only hope that it's not as serious as it sounds, because Bryan is back to what he was before his retirement in my eyes, and I think we mentioned that a couple of pods ago, and it's great to see him back at that level. His character work's been phenomenal during this run, and it would be such a shame.
It's arguably his best run in terms of his character work and his matches that he had in WWE.
I would definitely agree with that. And the last bit of news is another bit of really sad news, which is the fact that British indie wrestler Kid Lykos has announced his retirement from in-ring competition at the age of just 22. And that is such a shame.
Yeah, Lykos was really, really talented. He was part of a tag team with Chris Brooks, CCK, and they were a big part of Progress and other British promotions. I believe did they work Rev Pro as well?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that though, but I know they definitely worked Progress. They were Progress tag champs. They won the belts very quickly after coming into Progress, and it seemed like they were just, both of them were just going to go up and up and up and have fantastic careers. And he just kept getting injuries, and it's really a shame. And we spoke about this a few days ago, and I said, although it's sad, I totally understand it, because if you're getting injured all the time, you as someone who has to provide for themselves, I don't know if Lykos has a family, but either way, you've got to provide money for yourself. And if you're injured all of the time, you just don't have that money coming in. And if he's in this situation, he needs to have stable income. And I hope he's still involved in the world of wrestling. I don't know if he's going to be, but it's certainly sad news.
So with that, we will move on to the Superstar Shake-Up edition of Monday Night Raw. We opened the show with Steph. She was then joined by Shane, who asked for Mike Rome to do his Best in the World intro. Shane then did it in French before mocking Montreal for not speaking true Parisian French. There were a lot of CM Punk chants, ironically, at this point. And Steph introduced the newest member of Monday Night Raw. The Miz came through the crowd and attacked Shane. Shane got the upper hand for a while, but Miz fought back with a steel chair. Somehow he got busted open at some point. I can only think it's probably from one of Shane's errant punches, because you know what they're like. Shane scarpered to end the segment, so I guess Miz versus Shane isn't finished. Oh joy. Also, this went far too long.
Yeah, it went far too long, but I didn't mind it in terms of a way to bring Miz on to Raw. I would assume that what we're going to get now is one more match between Miz and Shane. Miz will win, and then Miz will be full-time Raw. That does seem like logical booking. The only problem is, could they not have just had Miz win at Mania and then debut Miz on Raw with something new and cool and fresh for him?
But the McMahons.
Yeah, everything that involves them is the most important thing in the world, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, Mania 16, I think the same thing happened there.
Yeah, you could say that. So,
or Mania 35. Electric Boogaloo, McMahon Super Show.
Yes. So next up we had an 8-man tag between Ricochet, Aleister Black, and the Raw Tag Team Champions Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins against The Revival and the Viking Experience,
otherwise known as War Raiders. Yeah. So where do we go with this one?
Well, basically, I just wrote the War Raiders got a nice reaction. They are now the Viking Experience and known as Ivar and Eric. Seriously.
It's just awful. I mean, it's it's so bad, it's funny, but at the same time, it's awful for War Raiders. I mean, I very much hope, and assume that they will get over in spite of it. They were really over when they came out. Debuts from NXT always tend to be, though. It's the weeks after that you have to wait and see. But they were over.
Well, I don't know whether you saw, but there was a video, like a fan cam video somebody posted from an NXT live show from over the weekend, which showed the War Raiders coming out, and they got a massive reaction. And then they were announced as the Viking Experience, and the crowd just booed mercilessly. And then just started chanting war.
Yeah, it's because it sucks. Like, I mean...
Because they're Vikings.
No.
And Vince saw them and went, they look like Vikings. We must call them the Viking Experience. It sounds like a Norwegian cruise ship.
It does actually sound like a cruise ship. I assume that the reason that they're not being called War Raiders is because Vince will think that sounds too warmongery and all of that stuff.
You do realise who his wife works for, don't you?
The government of America?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, I'll wait until you've gone through the actual segment and the match itself.
This was a fine tag team match where everyone really got a chance to shine, but it was all designed around introducing the Viking Experience to the audience, and as such, they were the stars of the match. Hawkins was isolated by Revival until he got the hot tag to Ryder, who ran wild and hit the Rough Rider for 2. Ricochet and Black took the Revival out on the outside, and Hawkins was dumped, allowing Ivar and Eric to hit Fallout on Ryder. It's a small thing, but that finisher name no longer makes sense. It did when they were War Machine, and it did when they were the War Raiders. But Vikings had no concept of nuclear energy, so far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I just hope it doesn't get in their way. I have a feeling it will, because these kind of things do tend to get in the way. Like, stupid names do tend to get in the way. Because it's just difficult for people to take them seriously. Hopefully they just get over in spite of it, because like the Viking Experiences, we're gonna have to now call them. Like, they're an awesome tag team. They're really, really good, and they've had a great NXT run.
And other than the name, this was a fine debut for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So we also then found out that Cedric Alexander is joining Raw. I like Cedric Alexander, I really, really do. But I feel like he's really going to get lost in the shuffle on Raw.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm a big fan of Cedric, and I think Cedric's done all he could. Well, I say he's done all he can do in 205 Live. I was really waiting for the heel turn that was going to come, we all assumed, on Mustafa Ali. Obviously, with Ali going, the story then just disappeared totally. But I think Cedric will 100% get lost in the shuffle. If they put him in a tag team of some sort, then that could be really good, but like, Cedric's going to become Apollo Crews if they don't actually give him something to do.
Yeah, and next up we had Finn Balor, and he came out, and his opponent will be a new member for Raw, and it turned out to be Andrade, who has brought Zelina with him. Andrade is going to cut a promo in French, but proceeds to say one word in French before cutting the rest of his promo in Spanish. Andrade used Zelina as a shield on the outside, allowing him to wipe Balor out on the apron as we headed to a break. Balor's knee was the weak spot, but he still managed to hit the sling blade and set up for the shotgun dropkick, but Andrade hit a cartwheel Pele for 2. He went for the top rope moonsault, but Finn moved, so he immediately transitioned into a standing variation, but Finn got the knees up. Balor missed the double stomp, but fought out of the hammerlock DDT. Vega tried to prevent the tope, but Balor just dove over the top of her. With a really weak ref distraction, Vega hit a Hurricane Run at the outside on Balor, and then Andrade rolled him in and hit the hammerlock DDT for the win. Poor execution of the distraction towards the end aside, this was great, and I look forward to what I thought at this point was the inevitable Intercontinental Championship match between them, because they could tear the house down. But then we've heard rumours that apparently Samoa Joe was meant to appear on this show and was meant to be taking the US title to Monday Night Raw, but was sick, so couldn't appear on that show, so is expected to appear tonight as we're recording this podcast on Monday Night Raw. So that may change things, because I was thinking, well, SmackDown's now got both mid-card titles, and Andrade gets a win over Finn Balor, so surely he's in line for a title shot, and I thought that was how they were going to get the Intercontinental Championship onto Raw. But if it's the case that Joe is going to Raw and taking the US title with him, we may never see this match, which would be a shame, because this was great.
Or we may see it, and it's just a case of Balor retains.
Which is entirely possible as well, and something I'd be totally behind.
Yeah, but this, like, because I don't think Balor should lose that title yet. He's just won it. Well, Yeah, he's just won it, so there's no real need for him to lose it yet. I thought this was a really great match, and I very much, fingers crossed, look forward to seeing it on pay-per-view with a little bit more time.
Totally agree. So Elias is out next. He says Cena and Undertaker are jealous of him. The crowd loves him, and he says they would hear noise like this more frequently if the Canadians ever did anything in the playoffs, which got sort of Seattle levels of heat when he mentioned the Supersonics a few months ago.
Yeah.
And Renee referenced that in commentary. Rey Mysterio is on Raw now too. He dumped Elias, who then bailed, but Lars Sullivan then came out. Rey put up a fight, but Lars hit the freak accident followed by a Liger bomb to stand tall.
This was fine. Fine.
Mysterio got some offense in, but I do feel like he just gets beaten down a whole lot for somebody who's as big a star as he is.
I think this felt like one of those things that, like, given a month, Lars should be doing, because Lars should just be killing people at this point. Like, like Braun at the start, where they don't get any offense in at all, and Lars just destroys them. Rey got quite a bit of offense in, and whilst I think that's good because it's Rey Mysterio, I'm not sure that should be happening at this point in the development of Lars Sullivan. I totally understand, like, Lars did eventually come out on top and looked good, but I just think...
Give him some jobbers to murder.
Yeah, like, I think it was Cornette, said, like, Frankenstein had to kill a few villagers first. Like, it's that kind of thing. You've got to just destroy people first before you start to have a bit of a challenge to you.
So Rude and Gable are out next. Gable has embraced the heel, and they can beat anyone in WWE. The crowd is not listening at all and is totally focused on the stage because at the start of their promo, someone in production screwed up and put up a graphic for the Usos. Funnily enough, the Usos now come out and are on Raw.
Shock.
So we got the match between the two. Rude and Gable took control after Rude sent Jay into the barricade. Jay eventually got a hot tag to Jimmy, who came in like a house of fire. Gable fought back and grabbed a Misu-style hanging armbar. They hit a German suplex blockbuster combo for 2, but Jimmy then escaped the attempt at their neckbreaker splash finisher combo. Gable went for the Chaos Theory, but Jay tagged in, and Gable ate superkicks before the double Us finished things. It was a decent, albeit short match that debuted the Usos well. At this point I wrote, I hope Rude and Gable and the Revival both go to SmackDown. Both teams need fresh starts. One of the four went. One of the four.
Yeah.
Shame.
So first off, I thought this was an absolutely fine match and a good way to debut the Usos. I think they'll do really well on Raw. Like, they're a great tag team.
Usos would do well wherever they went.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really thought that Gable and Rude were in line for a push as a heel tag team. That seemed like what they were going for. And I think there's just, like, did you not get that feeling last week? That they were this talk of, like, we're now changing our approach. They were at least going to be taken more seriously.
To be honest, it kind of felt like lip service to me. Like, we've turned them heel. Here they are threatening.
Is that
because we want them to job to somebody next week?
Is that not because of how you view WWE though?
Yeah.
Like, so, like, when I look at it, I think, right, well, that's in booking wise, they should now be seen as a threat, and they should now get a few wins. And I thought, well, maybe they've lost here, but maybe they're going to go to SmackDown and things like that. And it just seems like it's just constant, like, short-term booking with no planning. I'm not going to rant, but
you're right.
That's what it is, isn't it? They did this, and it was like, all right, well, that was cool for a week.
Moving on.
We have nothing to do now.
I know. So, a moment of bliss was next, and it was good. I wrote in all caps, I don't even know what life is anymore.
Why was it good, though?
Well, Sami Zayn.
Exactly. Like, it wasn't Alexa, put it that way.
No,
I'm not sure it was the segment itself.
It doesn't matter who they put on that show. It's always sucked.
Every time
they do this segment, it sucks. And this time, it did not suck.
Why did it not suck, Adam?
You know what? This was segment of the week.
Yeah, I agree.
A moment of bliss was segment of the week.
Yeah. What is life?
Yeah. So, Sami Zayn, as we've mentioned, is her guest and got a godlike reaction. They played his theme 3 times as the crowd sang along and Sami danced. Zayn said it is like shooting fish in a barrel.
We also got the Ole.
He referenced loads of local hotspots. He loves the city but hates the people. This is the low point of his week. He used to crave this reaction. Now it makes him sick. The fans then chanted for Kevin Owens, but Zayn told them they should be ashamed. Alexa says the fans aren't to blame. Sami is. Has Alexa turned face?
I have no words because
I'd
they
be
just don't
behind
know.
that. Like, I think Alexa's done all she can for the time being as a heel, and I think a babyface turn would be the most logical thing to do with her. But is this meant to be her turn? Because I really feel like that should be a bigger moment than her criticising Sami Zayn in a promo.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just that they put that line in there because they needed to continue the segment.
So Sami says these aren't his people. He moved to Orlando to get away from them. He tells them, "See you in hell." This was a great promo from Sami. I wasn't sure about them playing the heel shtick in Montreal, but Sami's work was so good, he turned them against him anyway. This was easily the best moment of bliss ever done. Kudos to everyone involved.
Great segment, totally segment of the week. Zayn just showed why he should be being pushed more. He's been like mid-card for life in WWE at best, and he does deserve more. And if I was them, I'd be pushing him towards whatever mid-card title they end up having on Raw, which obviously, well, it looks like it's going to be the United
US
States.
title, yeah.
So they should be pushing him towards that, and being Canadian, they could do some kind of something with that. They tend to do that kind of thing, don't they? And that would be really cool.
So we see a backstage video where Bayley can't get a hold of Sasha and the Iconics mock her. The Iconics are great. Bayley wants them tonight and she'll find a partner.
This was absolutely fine.
So Naomi debuts on Raw as Bayley's partner. The Iconics double team Naomi, but Bayley makes a save, allowing Naomi to hit a nice split-legged moonsault for the win. This does bring me down a couple of notches in excitement for tomorrow's tag team debut, I wrote at this point, but whatever.
Yeah, so why did Naomi and Bayley, on their first time ever tagging together, defeat the tag team champions?
Especially when Bayley was going to SmackDown the next day.
Just why?
Weird.
Like the Iconics are awesome. Like, and I know they're not.
And they do not need to be super protected. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's not their gimmick or anything like that. They're not a team that needs to be super protected. They can take losses because that's not what gets them over. It's their character work, and they don't need to be winners for that to work. But
This was a pointless loss.
And I was dead excited to see who was debuting the next night on SmackDown to face them. And then this just kind of took my excitement down a couple of levels.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree.
So it achieved nothing. Speaking of achieving nothing, we had Braun versus EC3 next. The match never got started. Braun annihilated EC3 and then chokeslammed him off the stage through a padded area next to the announce desk. Becky arrived and interrupted Strowman's celebrations. So that's still a thing.
Yeah.
Why?
No idea.
And why are we burying EC3 so far underground?
I bet he misses NXT.
I bet he misses TNA at this point.
Just like, I'm not the biggest lover of EC3, but I think in a certain role, I think he's more than entertaining and gets over. But he's not being given a chance to get over. Like, this is what irritates me. Why did they bring him up if they had nothing for him?
What do you mean they had nothing for him? He got to stand backstage and look in the mirror.
Like, what, Mojo?
Well, no.
Like, if they have nothing for someone, don't bring them up, because all they do is stagnate. And look what's happened to EC3. He's going to be jobber for ages, and then he'll leave and go to AEW.
And speaking of ruining NXT call-ups, EY is coming to Raw without Dane, without Wolf, who is going to NXT UK, I believe.
Yes, he is.
And just why? Sanity were cool.
Yeah, they were. And EY will be a jobber on Raw.
Yeah.
And he'll lose his character, probably. And the character of Sanity. I like EY. I do like EY, but it was the character and the whole package of Sanity which made him cool. Without that, he's just Eric Young.
Yeah. Not
to insult him. I do like him.
So next up we had Becky Lynch versus Ruby Riott. Ruby has Becky in trouble early, but makes a nice comeback before hitting the Bexploder. She went for her top rope leg drop, but Ruby cut her off and hit a senton for two. Becky got Ruby in the disarm her, but Sarah and Liv pull her to the floor. Becky takes them out, rolls Ruby back in, and locks on the disarm her for the win. The Riott Squad tried to attack her post-match, but Becky sees them off. This was good for what time they got, but it is Becky and Ruby, so I guess I should expect no less.
Yeah, this was fine. Like, I haven't got a lot to add here. This was fine. Becky needs something proper, though. Don't you feel like that?
Lacey Evans.
No.
That's her proper thing.
No. You know
Sorry,
what I mean?
mate.
Like, I don't feel like Becky's momentum is going down a lot, but it is going down. And they need something to really kickstart her.
I think
again.
the chase is always in the case of somebody like Becky, is always better than the inevitable title run. So I did expect this to happen to a degree.
It's not a bad point.
I don't think the cooling are off. I do think she's feuding with the wrong people, but I don't think it's for a lack of trying.
No, I don't mean that deliberately. Like, it's not like, you know, like when Brian won the title, it felt like they were deliberately cooling him for some strange, or just booking him badly.
What I kind of mean is, I don't think they're booking bad stories for her. I just think the parts they're using don't fit. Like, I wouldn't be pushing Lacey to the level they're pushing her. I'd be using somebody better. I'd be using a Sasha Banks. I'd be using a Charlotte Flair, whoever. Yeah. And even an Alexa Bliss. They had a really good feud over the SmackDown Women's Championship when the brand split first came into effect.
They did.
You know, I think there's plenty of options other than Lacey that we could have used. But
yeah, like Lacey could come later in the title reign. It's like a filler defense.
Yeah. So after Becky's match, we came back and Rude Interviewer interviewed Corbin, Lashley and McIntyre backstage. Corbin made a terrible joke about Rude Interviewer being drafted to SmackDown. McIntyre was not impressed, but Lashley just completely corpsed at this point. Long story short, they're going to get rid of Rollins and Reigns the same way Lashley got rid of Ambrose. This whole thing was unintentionally hilarious.
But dreadful.
It probably was, but I didn't really get the content of the promo because I was just too busy laughing at everybody's reaction to Corbin's joke.
Yeah.
McIntyre just looked like, why did you just say that? And Lashley just like... Lashley had that look of when you hear a joke that's so bad it's good.
Yes.
It was amazing. I did have to struggle not to give this segment of the week just
because
of how much it made me laugh.
No.
But for all the wrong reasons.
No.
And speaking of for the wrong reasons, when we came back to the ring, Becky was still there. She'd stood in the ring through a whole commercial break and then a promo from McIntyre and his crew backstage. And she was just stood there in the centre of the ring, just like, yay.
You know what's awesome? Like, people always say about when you actually go to see Raw and see Raw being filmed, it's so very different to watching it live on TV. Like, can you imagine being in the audience as you're like, seriously, is Becky gonna leave? Like, she's like, what does Becky do? Does she just sit in the corner or like chill on the ropes? Like,
so Natty comes out to an oddly mixed response given they were in Montreal. She cut a babyface promo putting over Becky for all her accomplishments. She's here to tell us she's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, which drew heat. I'm not sure they expected this from the crowd, and to be fair, neither did I.
No.
Becky sticks to the script though and puts Natty over to talking over their time together touring European independence as teenagers. Becky says it would be an honour, but Lacey happens. She calls Natty a classless has-been and then has some really awkward lines about knowing how to curry favour and use her influence as she leans forward, you know, to get her breasts out.
Because she's pretty.
Yeah, to get what she wants.
Yeah, because that's the only way women can get on in life is by making men attracted to them.
That was awkward.
Women's evolution.
Yeah. She's on Raw and has a number one contenders match versus Natty per the McMahons. They worked quick unless Natalya gave them a heads up that she was coming out there. Like, how did the McMahons know to make this number one contenders match?
It was really clever.
It was really, really clever.
Yeah. How was the match?
So, the crowd absolutely died for this match.
Why?
They had been great all night, but this match was bad in places and just flat throughout, and unfortunately, it sucked a lot of life out of the crowd.
It sucked a lot of life out of Natalya as well.
Natty hit a nice discus lariat and followed up with the sharpshooter, even dragging it back into the centre, but Lacey eventually got to the ropes. Lacey managed to hit the woman's right and followed up with a double jump moonsault that crushed Natty in a really nasty looking finish.
Yeah, her knees went straight into her, like her ribs, and I hope Natty's okay. I don't know, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I was just about to say myself, I hope Natty's okay, because that was not nice.
She genuinely, she wasn't selling. Like, it genuinely looked like she was in genuine pain.
I can't imagine how she wouldn't be in genuine pain, because that was just the full brunt of Lacey's knees landing on her chest.
She cannot do that to Becky, because if she injures Becky, she's going to get so much heat.
The match sucked too, unfortunately. I'm glad we've got someone feuding with Becky who can bring it to her on Twitter, but Lacey really needs to work on her in-ring game. I mean, the Twitter feud has been so light years ahead of where we were with Ronda. Like, Lacey's been great on Twitter. Yeah. I don't give her much credit, but she's brought it on Twitter, and it's nice to see somebody who can actually go toe-to-toe with Becky and doesn't just get absolutely destroyed by her. But that being said, her in-ring work
leaves a lot to be desired.
Is less than stellar.
Yeah, that's the most polite way we could say that. It leaves, it's less than stellar and it leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah. So Seth and Roman are interviewed about their partner tonight. The boos are certainly back for Roman, sadly. The way this promo went, I assume Roman is going to SmackDown tomorrow, which might not be a bad shout. And as it turned out, Roman was going to SmackDown tomorrow.
Foresight.
Bray Wyatt has apparently discovered some dolls and stuff. And then we had our main event. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns and their surprise partner, AJ Styles, versus Drew McIntyre, Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley. AJ got a nice reaction. The work early was fine, but just quite dull. Rollins got a hot tag to AJ, who hit strikes galore on Lashley and followed up with a Pele. He went for the Styles Clash, but Drew hit him with a nice Claymore. He took out Reigns too. On the outside, Rollins hit him with a super kick, and then Reigns hit him with the Superman punch, sending him into the crowd. Corbin rolls out of the ring to do his run around the post thing, but in a nice spot, Roman catches him with the drive-by as he tried to slide back in. AJ set up for the phenomenal forearm, but Leo pulled his leg, and this allowed Lashley to hit an inverted Stormbreaker, but Rollins broke up the pin with the curb stomp. Reigns followed with a spear, and AJ hit the phenomenal forearm for the win. The babyfaces celebrated post-match with AJ very fired up. He could have just been fired up for his first night on Raw, but I don't know, just looking at him, it felt like a heel turn was coming somewhere down the line.
And to be honest, I think that would be a really smart decision.
Especially with the way Rollins and Reigns reacted to him like he was a bit of a crazy man as well.
So first off, I think this was a decent way to debut AJ. He's a major name. I think he's literally done... I've talked to a few people on Twitter about this, actually. And they felt like AJ did have stuff left to do on SmackDown because there was fresh matchups. And I kind of understand their points of view. But at the same time, AJ's been heel champion, he's been babyface champion. Unless he was in a tag team, he had very little left to do on SmackDown, and I think it just gives him a fresh environment to be in. It was a decent way to debut AJ, and I genuinely think that a heel turn would really, really help AJ. He's been babyface for a long, long time now, and he could do with a bit of refreshing. And Rollins AJ will be so out of this world.
Totally agree. 100% in agreement for that. I thought this was a good episode of Raw, although the final hour fell a bit flat compared to the first two. But I thought it was an okay episode. For a Superstar Shake-Up, it was probably much like the Raw after Mania, a bit disappointing. But as an overall episode of Monday Night Raw, this is probably going to be one of the better ones you see this year.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought it was okay, just for a Raw. But for a Superstar Shake-Up, and just like the Raw after Mania, they've taught me and they've trained me to expect more. So I expected more, and I didn't really get it. There weren't any big turns. There was no massive moments.
And did the debuts just feel a bit I don't know, nothing
predictable,
to you?
flat?
Just like they didn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird.
AJ debuting should feel humongous. And it was just all right, well, AJ's in this match. Cool. And it was cool, but, they could have done something a bit more to debut AJ.
So, Raw's viewership continued its disappointing trend by only drawing 2.67 million viewers, which was down 9% from last week's 2.92 million viewers, and down 26% from last year's 3.62 million viewers.
Wow.
On a positive note, the drop-off wasn't as large as usual, with Hour 1 at 2.76 million, Hour 2 at 2.69 million, and Hour 3 at 2.55 million. So the drop-off wasn't as bad.
Yeah, but that's saying, so less people have watched, but less people tuned out.
Yeah.
It's still not good.
It's not good.
Where are they going to be? We keep saying this, where are they going to be when they hit, the doldrums of, it's going to be after Money in the Bank, we think, this year, isn't it? The ratings are going to be bad. I can see it coming.
And with that, we move on to SmackDown Live. We opened with the Kevin Owens show. He spoke French and introduced the New Day. Owens put over Kofi, who thanks him in the crowd. KO notes Big E is missing, and Xavier says he's injured before ranting about Raw taking most of the up, down, down roster and wants to see Tyler Breeze tonight. He's probably too busy booking HBK versus Taker for the 1000th time, though. Owens talks about New Day's match against Rusev and Nakamura. He wants to be Big K. And then, wait a minute, he decides Big O is better. New Day are reticent at first, but the fans chant "we," and so Kofi relents as Owens does a very poor hip swivel. He is no Big E. They give him a tiny crop top and a unicorn horn. This was fun. This is our approach to Rusev and Nakamura backstage, and will be their partner tonight.
Just absolutely fine, really fun, good opening segment. It's still super formulaic, but if you're going to do the formula, at least make it fun. And this was fun, and for one night only, I'm more than happy to see Owens as part of the New Day. I also wouldn't mind a heel turn, but we'll see what happens.
You see, I think we've done Owens as a heel for long enough. He's never really been babyface on the main roster. So
I don't disagree.
I would keep him babyface. But I do think that we need to be careful with Kofi as well, because
he needs something.
He needs something, but also I love the New Day and I'm not taking anything away from them, but your WWE champion should not be as big of a joke as the New Day kind of have been.
For me, to be honest, I don't know how long Big E's going to be out for. Do you know yet?
I don't know. I'll be quite honest.
If it was me, Big E has to come back and turn on Kofi. I think now that Kofi is where he is, as much as I love the New Day, it has to have run its course now, because
maybe this will have something to do with it, because Big E, when he come back, could just be like, "How quick did you replace me?"
Dude, you replaced me, yeah, and I think that's what it has to be now. Big E will have to turn heel, and I think he'll be great in that role as well, and we could get a really good Kofi Big E feud.
So next up, we had Ali versus the debuting Finn Balor. So Balor on SmackDown, that was an interesting move and one I didn't really actually expect.
No, I didn't see it coming, but I'm pretty sure I was calling for it last year. I think he'd kind of been on Raw too long by that point, and I think he could be really, really good on SmackDown. It's very much the wrestling show. Whether that continues with the move to Fox, we don't know, but I think that this could be quite a good move for Finn Balor and for SmackDown. I quite liked it.
So Ali and Balor delivered a fun sprint here, and much like the previous night, I want to see this again, but with them given more time. Balor chopped the hell out of Ali early, but Ali got some payback with some vicious chops of his own later on. Balor hit a sling blade. Why have he and Rollins both seemingly lost the ability to hit this move with any kind of aplomb? At this point, just leave it to Tanner.
It's got worse.
Yeah, both of theirs, though. It's really weird.
Yeah, it has. You're right.
So Ali hit a desperation super kick and got a near fall. He went for the tornado DDT, but Balor countered into a standing double stomp. Balor went up top, but Ali stopped him and hit a top rope Hurricane Rana for 2. Ali then went up, but missed the 450. Balor hit a shotgun drop kick, and the coup de grace picked up the win. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. More than serviceable match. I would like to see this as a feud moving forward. I don't want to see Ali as a heel, though. But I think this would be quite a cool feud moving forward, because Ali needs something, because he's getting very quickly, he's getting directionless.
New Day initiate Big O by having him try to beat Big E's pancake eating record. Owen, Xavier and Kofi were all on fire in what was a really funny segment.
This was great. I love this. Just it's one of those examples where they get comedy right.
Yeah. The gobbledygooker dinosaurs back, and then we had Charlotte Flair versus Carmella. This was kind of just there, not outright bad, and certainly better than their championship matches last year, but still very meh. Charlotte threw Mella into the barricade, but she fought back with a super kick. Carmella then does the weirdest and slowest climbing through the ropes of all time to allow Charlotte to hit her with a chop block. I love a good chop block, but that was ludicrous. The figure 8 finishes Carmella.
This was absolutely 100% fine. It was neither great nor was it offensive.
It was just there.
Yeah, as well. Charlotte needs something. Do you not find that?
I feel like we're saying a lot of people need something.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people with very little to do. Like they are, like we talk about how bad their booking is, but it is now getting to a point where it's getting genuinely concerning.
So post-match, Truth tends to Carmella, but Lars comes out. Truth tries to fight him, but Lars no-sells his offense. He hits a freak accident on Truth and then stares menacingly at Carmella, but Little Nate gets her out of dodge, then comically reminds her to sell the knee. Lars Liger bombs Truth to end the segment.
Fine.
Yeah. Becky is here. She knows she has a lot of challenges and starts to talk about Lacey, but Ember Moon is on SmackDown now and interrupts. She says she's here to make a name for herself. Bayley then comes out to huge boos. How they have botched Bayley this badly, I will never know.
Like, how'd you get her wrong?
Her and Becky reminisce, but she wants the gold too. The Iconics come out, mock Moon and Bayley before saying they have 2 belts too, and theirs are better than Becky's. Paige arrives to introduce her new team. Mandy and Sonya arrive and say Absolution is back, but Paige says she's not introducing them. She brings out Asuka and Kairi, 2 brand new superstars.
Brand new.
Brand new.
Totally new, both of them.
Asuka has not been on SmackDown or
Ever.
Raw. or the main roster?
She's been in NXT the whole time.
Yeah.
I noticed her.
I hadn't either.
Yeah, brand new.
We get a mass brawl as Becky stands back and watches unamused. Becky's great.
Yes, she is. I don't like. I think Asuka and Kairi will be an unbelievably good tag team.
Oh, there will be.
I have a worrying feeling they'll get lost in the shuffle though, and I genuinely, the main thing is I genuinely really feel like Asuka deserves more at this point.
I think in Money in the Bank, Asuka and Kairi win the women's tag titles and have a very long reign with them.
Possibly, but wouldn't it be cool for Asuka to turn on Kairi as well? Can you imagine heel Asuka moving forward?
I wouldn't be opposed to that at some point, but I think that'll come towards the end of the title run, if I'm being honest.
They'll be cool.
So we've got an 8-woman tag between all 8 women who are brawling. We got back from break and the match was ongoing. It was okay, but not much to write home about. Bayley got mercilessly booed every time she got in the ring. Asuka tagged in and destroyed Peyton with strikes before hitting an unusually ugly German, which I'm going to put on Peyton, unfortunately, and a sliding kick for 2. It all breaks down as everyone hit moves, including a beautiful spear from Sonya Deville. Asuka hit a Scorpion Death Drop and then tagged in Kairi, who hit the insane elbow for the win. Man, that move is just breathtakingly beautiful.
It is. She's up there with like the greatest users of that move ever.
I think they've possibly made a tag team of the 2 best female wrestlers in the world.
They've got,
in the world, period. I honestly think Asuka and Kairi are probably the 2 best workers in the world. Female workers.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, actually.
And
yeah.
They're in a tag team together.
Hopefully it's good, but I have no faith in them. Why is Bayley getting booed? Like, I know they've booked her badly for the last, year and a half, but over the last few months, she's actually been booked pretty okay. I'm quite surprised that she just got totally booed like this.
I honestly don't know, but I do feel like you can only book somebody badly for so long before they become damaged goods.
And the crowd turns, yeah.
And they take a lot more rehab than a couple of months in a short run with the women's tag belts.
Yeah, true. That's true.
The Hardys remind us they won gold last week. And then KO tries to introduce the New Day, but not enough from his loins, apparently. Eventually, after some encouragement from Xavier and Kofi, he manages an acceptable intro. Buddy Murphy is coming to SmackDown and actually gets a really nice reaction, which is awesome because Buddy Murphy's awesome.
I did hate how he had to be like, you may not have heard of me.
But you know what? I get what you're saying. The unfortunate thing is, as much as we love 205 Live, not many people will have heard of him because nobody watches 205 Live. Yeah. Hashtag watch 205 Live.
But people obviously do that were in that crowd because they gave him a legit pop. And
you know what? I think there's more of a chance that they've just seen his awesome matches on the pre-show of every pay-per-view for the past 6 months.
Possibly. Genuinely, this is really, really good. I like that he got this pop. Hopefully the people that are in power noticed it and he gets something legitimately good, at a mid-card level. Buddy Murphy.
I tell you what, Buddy Murphy versus Finn Balor would absolutely kill.
Wouldn't it?
Be awesome.
Yeah. Oh.
Money in the Bank. I just thought of that right now.
Yeah, Money in the Bank time. That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
So we then got the 6-man tag main event. This was a fun tag match. New Day hit the Unicorn Stampede and then Woods whipped Big O into the Cannonball for 2. Xavier got isolated for a while but got the hot tag to Kofi, who ran wild. He went for a crossbody but Cesaro caught him. Kofi reserved into an SOS though for 2. And Cesaro swung Kofi for 6 years and then locked on the sharpshooter, but Big O broke it up with a super kick. Odd seeing Canadians cheering a man super kicking another man who was employing a sharpshooter. We truly are in Bizarro land. Big O tags in and helps Kofi hit a huge tope con trust fall to the outside. Kofi hits Trouble in Paradise on Rusev and Big O hits an attempted stunner, but Rusev sells it like a really explosive snapmare. Big O pins Rusev.
Yeah, it was actually really it was a good and entertaining.
Fun for what it was, yeah. The finish was a bit weird, but yeah.
Yeah.
More stupid Bray stuff. And then Vince is here. The crowd chants, "You screwed Brett," but Vince just barrels on through with his promo and they soon fall silent. He needs to teach half his roster how to deal with rowdy crowds when they're cutting a promo. Vince rarely gives his seal of approval to anyone, but this is the biggest acquisition in SmackDown history. He introduces the future of WWE, Elias. Elias says he questions Vince's decisions sometimes, but Vince clearly has his finger on the pulse of what people want. Vince is just screwing with us now, isn't he?
Irony. I know, it's the most ironic thing. Vince has his finger on the pulse.
Roman Reigns interrupts and is now on SmackDown. I do like this move. He attacks Elias and Vince gets in his face, so he Superman punches Vince. SmackDown is his yard now. Roman leaves but comes back and spears Elias to end the show. This is exactly how they should use Roman. He came out, beat people up, cut a short and sweet promo, and everyone loved him. more of this Roman, please. Because I don't know whether you noticed, but he got a noticeably better reaction on this show than he got on Monday night.
If they'd done this for years with Roman had legit been like the biggest star in the company in a good way. They should do this moving forward. I do find it weird that like him punching like a 70-whatever-year-old man.
Punching Vince always gets over.
It does. Vince. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just funny, isn't it, that like punching a 70-year-old man was cool, but it was. I'm interested to see where they go with Roman. I don't have a lot of faith because my faith in their booking has declined hugely.
One thing that did worry me about this segment was when Roman was leaving, Tom Phillips screaming at the top of his lungs on commentary, "Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest acquisition in SmackDown history, the future of SmackDown Live and the future of the WWE." I like Roman. I'm glad he's back. I've always thought the reason he got so much heat was because he got the push to a degree that he wasn't skilled for. And I feel like with lines like that from Tom Phillips on commentary, we're heading straight back to Roman as top dog. And I'm not even saying he shouldn't be a top guy or even the top guy, but they push him to such a Superman level where he has to look better than everyone at all times and cannot show weakness, is the reason why he got booed in the first place.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm not sure. I don't think he's the guy anymore. I just don't. I don't think he ever. I'm not sure he ever was.
That line concerned me.
Yeah, I don't think he ever was though. I think Rollins was the guy, and they just didn't see it until recently. Or AJ. Like I would much rather have AJ or Rollins be carrying the company. I must be honest. But I think Roman should be like the 1B guy. If like that's how I would have it. But like we'll see where they go. I have no faith in their booking at the moment though. I must be honest. But like if Roman keeps getting these reactions, then good, because I have felt bad really since his diagnosis that we have given him so much stick for so long, and it's awful that it took his diagnosis for me to really get to this point, but it was kind of like this realization of like, yeah, but it's not Roman's fault. Like, it's never been Roman's fault. It's been the booking and the writing. It's never been Roman's fault.
Unfortunately, if you don't boo someone you don't think should be on top, they're just going to barrel through because everybody likes them. And I mean, they're going to barrel through anyway. We've seen that Vince just will not change his mind, and he will do what he wants to do regardless. But we're getting to a point now where there may be competition on the horizon. We hope to give them a bit of a kick up the backside. Hopefully the Fox thing gives them a bit of a kick up the backside, because their ratings need to significantly improve. But if you don't boo somebody who you don't think should be in the position they're in,
they won't do anything.
They won't change.
Yeah.
So, much like Raw, I thought this was a good, if not great, episode of SmackDown. Good stuff.
Yeah, my recap would literally be exactly the same as Raw. It was good, but not enough to Mania, but not enough to not a SmackDown superstar shake-up that I would have expected.
So, non-televised superstar moves to SmackDown are Liv Morgan, Apollo Crews, Heavy Machinery, Mickie James, and Chad Gable. Lots of interesting stuff in there. SmackDown viewership. SmackDown drew 2.32 million viewers, which was up 2% from last week, but down 20% from last year's Shake-Up episode. They also retained 83% of the Raw audience. Probably better numbers than Raw, but still drastically bad.
Just not good, is it?
No.
And it's getting worse.
And with that, we will move on to NXT. We opened with the North American Championship match between Velveteen Dream and Buddy Murphy, and what a match this was. Should I be surprised? No. Was I surprised? No, but it was still awesome.
Yeah.
Murphy got a nice reaction, and Velveteen is beloved as usual. Murphy hit a tope at Conhalo and followed up with a Meteora for 2. Dream fought back and went up top but got crotched. Murphy ran at Dream but ate a super kick. Dream sent Murphy to the floor and followed with a double axe handle. Dream went for the Dream Valley driver, but Murphy fought out. They both ended up on either side of the top rope. They traded strikes and both felt the floor. They beat the count, and then Murphy hit a spike DDT for 2. Murphy went up top, but Dream cut him off, and then Murphy hit a gourd buster. He tried to follow up with the sunset flip, but Dream countered into a Dream Valley driver for 2. He went up top, but Murphy cut him off and hit Cheeky Nando's, followed by a Liger Bomb for 2. They end up on the apron, where Murphy hits a V-trigger, which nearly sends Velveteen's head into the front row. Murphy can't get Dream back in, so breaks the count by rolling in and back out. He then finally manages to send Dream back in, but when Buddy tries to get back in, Dream guillotines him with a Fairmaster. He hits the Dream Valley driver, and the Purple Rainmaker allows Dream to retain. This was a stellar match, and both guys were awesome, but I did think it was interesting that they kind of played it up like Dream was sort of playing possum on the outside, And Murphy had to break the count, and Dream would have happily taken a count-out loss because he would have retained his title. And then as soon as he got rolled back in, he took advantage. I'm not against that. I do like Shades of Grey with Dream because he's beloved, but his character is certainly in its design quite heelish. So I don't mind that. I just thought it was interesting that they did it to protect Buddy.
Yeah, and I don't think NXT does anything just to do it. I think there are reasons behind everything and every booking decision that NXT makes. I think you're totally right. Velveteen is better as a Shades of Grey character, as being someone who's, just in terms of the crowd reaction, a good guy, and doesn't necessarily do bad things, but every now and then he will do something where you're a bit like, that wasn't super fair. But he's so cool and so awesome and so great in his role, and genuinely could be a massive, massive star. Like, I see more and more.
Yeah, and this match was just blow away good.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Street Profits go to Regal's office to ask for a match with War Raiders, but when they knock, it is War Raiders who answer, and they say they've already got the match booked and they will see them next week. Hansen warns the Street Profits to be careful what they wish for. That should be a fun match, but I can't help but think War Raiders versus Bartel and Eichner would have been even better.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of Bartel and Eichner, so I'd like to see them getting more of a push outside of NXT UK.
Be interesting to see how long the War Raiders hold on to the NXT tag titles now that they're on the main roster.
Not long, I would assume. I don't know. I'm trying to think who is. Oh, it's gonna be Forgotten Sons, isn't it?
No, don't say that.
It will be.
Johnny Gargano comes out to a rapturous ovation, although when he starts to cut his promo, there's still a noticeable subset of the Full Sail crowd that are against him. He reminds us of how he was told no at his tryout, but here we are 4 years later, and because he refused to accept no for an answer, he is finally Johnny Champion. Undisputed Era's music hits, and Adam Cole is in a bad mood. Only O'Reilly and Fisher with him though, no Roddy. He says Gargano is lucky because in a regular championship match, Cole would have won since he won the first fall. Gargano asks if there is trouble in his boy band and asks if they're in sync. See what he did there? Gargano reminds Cole that he beat him 2 falls in a row and tapped him out both times for good measure. And that's not just definitive, that's undisputed. He calls Cole a spoiled baby and then says if he wants to grow a pair, Johnny is willing to add to the 2-1 scoreboard. Cole approaches the ring, but Strong attacks Gargano from behind, and Undisputed Era beat Gargano down, finishing as the other 3 hold Johnny, allowing Cole to super kick him. This was fun.
Yeah, really, really good. I'm more than happy for this storyline to continue. Obviously, we have got seeds of dissension at the moment in the Undisputed Era,
which we'll get onto more later in the show as
well.
Yeah,
and that's going to really add into that.
It is. So, next up we had Dominik Dijakovic versus a jobber. Dijakovic wins in 5 seconds after one move, a big boot. That works for this scenario.
Look at you saying the word properly.
He brings up his Croatian heritage and says he is here thanks to his family's sacrifices. He wants the North American Championship and tells Dream to feast his eyes. This was not a great promo, unfortunately, but Dream versus Dijakovic should be fun.
Yeah, it'll be a really good match, and he does need work on his promo skills. He will get it.
Which is weird, because I always thought he was a pretty decent promo in ROH, but I don't know whether it was the content of what he was given here or whether he's just not comfortable cutting promos, because they have promo classes every week at the Performance Center, and I'm assuming he does promos on the road as well at NXT live events, but maybe it was just he'd never cut one on TV for so long and he felt a bit off about it. I don't know what it was, but there's something just not right about this promo.
Totally agree.
So Undisputed Era are interviewed backstage and say they have resolved their issues, but Regal arrives and says Gargano wants a match with the Undisputed Era. Cole scoffs and asks him when he is getting his match, but Regal tells him Gargano wants Strong, not Cole. Strong looks happy. Fish and O'Reilly seem fine with this, but Cole is clearly not pleased. More dissension brewing, which makes me sad. Please don't do this.
I think they're going to.
Don't break up the Undisputed Era.
They should be together all the way through the main roster.
Should be together forever at this point. Aaliyah and Vanessa Bourne cut an awful promo with truly horrific acting, saying they weren't ready for last week, but next week they will be. They tell Candice to find another Loa, whatever that means, to be a partner.
Like, they're
These
dreadful, aren't
they? Absolutely suck.
They are awful, and they're getting so much time, and they're awful. Their matches suck, their promos suck. They're not good, are they?
No, they're not. Kushida debuts in 2 weeks, and next week we will see Gargano versus Strong. And with that, we went to our main event, which was Shayna Baszler defending her title against Kairi Sane. It was our second championship match of the evening. And they played a video beforehand highlighting their history, but missed out 2 of Shayna's wins, which wasn't ideal because it kind of makes the step of Kyrie not getting another championship match if she loses seem unfair.
Yeah.
Even though it wouldn't really, because Shayna's currently 3-2 up in singles matches between them. But if you watch the video package, it was like Kyrie was 2-1 up.
Yeah.
Weird.
True.
Anyway, Sane went wild at the start and tried to finish things early, hitting a back fist, the sliding D, a crossbody to the floor, and then a flying clothesline for 2. Baszler fought back with a brutal-looking knee strike, though. Kyrie fought out the sleeper and hit the interceptor. She's selling her shoulder, though. They fought up top, and Kyrie hit a double stomp where Shayna had to hold herself in place for an eternity. If I never see that spot again, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. Kyrie goes for the flying elbow strike off the apron, but Shayna moves and Kyrie eats the guardrail, weakening her shoulder and arm even more. Shayna then gets sadistic and twists the arm all over the place in a variety of submissions. She's turned into Zack Sabre Jr. Sane gets the ropes and then Drake calls for the doctor. Kyrie tries to get back in, but the doctor wants to check her. Io runs down to check on her friend, but Shayna pulls Kyrie back in the ring. She goes for the shoulder dislocation spot she did on Dakota Kai last year, but Io pushes Shayna off, which gets Kyrie DQ'd, but saves her arm. This was good, but not great, and probably their weakest match together, but everything they did worked, like the DQ finish, protecting Kyrie a little bit, but also Io fighting for a friend. It would have been interesting if Kyrie was staying in NXT to see whether there would have been dissension between the two of them about it, but clearly this was just a way to save Kyrie's face so she didn't go to the main roster on a loss, which is weird because NXT's not always that bothered about that, but also allowed Shayna to just look like this vicious, awful human being, as she does. And then post-match, Marina and Jessamine threw Io into the guardrail and then held her and made her watch as Shayna does the Dakota spot to Kyrie anyway. Good stuff. Io looks irate as the show ends. I love the 3 horsewomen. I know Marina and Jessamine are not there in the ring yet. They're not. But them as a trio are just vile, awful human beings, and they make for such entertaining TV.
Yeah, first of all, I think the match was good, not great. You're certainly right, it was one of their weaker matches that they've had together. The booking was a bit funky for me. I don't hate it, but it's a bit interesting in that, like, I don't see why you couldn't just book a clean finish. If it's going to lead into Io against Shayna, though, I'm fine with that.
And I think it will, and I think the thing is, Shayna's been booked quite strongly as champion. She just won a fatal 4-way clean as a whistle without the help of any of her friends.
We have said she's as strong as she's ever going to be at this point.
Yeah, so it's not like the Revival where every time they're booked badly, you go, when they were Raw Tag Champs, you go, they're your champions. They always look so weak. At least with Shayna looked weak on this occasion, but she then came back, got her heat back at the end, and it was really vile. And just the little touch of them not just throwing Io into the guardrail to stop her from saving Kyrie, but actually then picking her up and making her watch is just the little things that NXT, I think, gets that sometimes the main roster doesn't seem to get for some reason, and I don't know why.
Totally agree.
I thought this was a great episode of NXT, better than the usual very good caliber of episode, probably because we had 2 championship matches and really good matches in there, but it was a really good episode.
Yeah, I really agree. It was like an 8 out of 10 NXT episode.
Yeah, I agree. So 205 Live was next. We opened with a Tony Nese video opening where he talks about beating Buddy twice last week and wanting to know who will step up to him next. Drake joined commentary. Tonight will be Cedric's last match on 205 Live, and Maverick thanks him for his service. And we opened with a fatal 4-way. Lucha House Party cut a promo mainly in French. What they said in French had as much impact to me as what they said in English, and I don't even speak French. Arya Daivari was in the match too, alongside Grand Metalik representing the Lucha House Party, Akira Tozawa and Mike Kanellis. Daivari's get-up is still awful, you'll be pleased to know.
Yeah, it looks atrocious.
Yeah. Kanellis' music is still awesome, you'll be pleased to know. This seems to be a contenders match, but we don't get any concrete information about that. Tozawa and Metalik work a nice back and forth sequence early. Kanellis and Daivari then work together for a while until Kanellis accidentally superkicks Daivari. Daivari's upset about it, but backs off when Mike tries to climb back in the ring. But then Daivari powerbombs him from the apron to the floor. Tozawa and Metalik are seriously great in this match. Tozawa hits a missile dropkick on Kanellis, but then got caught with a springboard swanton from Metalik, who himself got caught with a frog splash from Daivari for 2. Daivari ends up on the apron and Metalik leaps over the ropes to hit a Rana off the apron, which also wipes out Kanellis, but Tozawa catches him with a Tope Suicida. Back in, and Tozawa hits a snap German on Kanellis. He heads up top, but Maria distracts him, allowing Mike to crotch Tozawa. He sends him down though and goes for the senton, but Mike gets the knees up. He hits the inverted crossroads and goes for the cover, but Metalik goes for a springboard elbow, so Kanellis moves and Metalik lands on Tozawa. Kanellis dumps Metalik, but Daivari then dumps Kanellis and pins Tozawa for the win. You could have heard a pin drop as the crowd went ultra mild. This was a good match with a really flat finish and a winner that no one cares about.
Yeah, no one wanted to see him win, did they?
No.
But the match itself was fine and good. But I do not want to see it.
Yeah.
I must be honest, I don't want to see it.
Only Lorcan cuts a promo backstage. He puts over Cedric's contribution to 205 Live, but everything comes to an end and he wants to be the one to lead 205 Live into the future. And if he can't beat Cedric, he knows he's not worthy of being the leader. Cedric cuts a promo and talks about being drafted to Raw. He looks at the blood, sweat and tears he has poured into the Cruiserweight division as his legacy. If only he wants to lead this division forward, he's going to have to put Cedric down, and he isn't going down without a fight. 2 decent promos.
Really good, set up the match, like very, very 205 Live. They're very good at setting up the main event. So no complaints whatsoever.
And then we found out that Humberto Carrillo versus Drew Gulak will take place next week. That should be fun.
That'll be great. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Gallagher as well.
Yeah. So next up we had our main event. Cedric went for a tope suicida, but only sent him into the barricade and then threw him into the LED apron, which allowed Lorcan to take control of the match. Cedric fought back and hit a nice Michinoku driver for 2. Alexander went for the neuralizer, but Lorcan just uppercutted him in the back of the neck. He hit a blockbuster and then a brutal uppercut for 2. Orny went for the half and half suplex, but Cedric elbowed out, so Orny chop blocked him and then hit a powerbomb. Alexander kicked out at 2, but Lorcan transitioned into a half crab. Cedric almost got the ropes, but Lorcan pulled him back to the centre. Cedric eventually made the ropes. Orny goes for a top rope half and half, but Cedric knocks him to the outside and hits a tope con hilo. Cedric rolls him back in and goes for a springboard, but as usual it doesn't work as Orny murders him with an uppercut in midair. Cedric rolls to the apron, but Orny follows and they trade strikes until Lorcan slaps the living daylights out of Cedric. Alexander lands some strikes of his own, but when he goes for a kick, Orny catches him with a half and half suplex on the apron. He rolls Cedric in and decapitates him with a lariat before a second half and half suplex gets the win for Lorcan. The age of Alexander is over in 205 Live. This was great, and the crowd chanted thank you Cedric post-match as both men shook hands and showed respect. Lorcan left the ring and Cedric's music played as he took the acclaim of the crowd to end the show.
This was a really, really good way to write Cedric out of 205 Live. I really liked it. Really good match. It was always going to be a good match. But I think it's the fact that this showed clear respect to Cedric on the way out, whilst also giving Lorcan quite a noticeable rub. And I think he's going to be a very interesting part of 205 Live moving forward. So I loved everything about this.
Yeah, totally agree. More of a feel-good episode of 205 Live this week rather than a massively story-heavy show, but both matches were good. The main event was very good, actually, and the promos were good. So a solid thumbs up as usual.
Yep, 205 Live, just continuing on its good work.
And with that, we will move on to any other business. And I think the first thing we probably need to talk about here is the Shield's final match together. It aired on the WWE Network last night. I have not watched it myself, but I've heard it was a good match, but more of this is a feel-good thing from a house show just to say goodbye to Dean Ambrose. And interestingly enough, he didn't get the win, but he was on the winning team and they very much gave him a feel-good send-off rather than the usual, you're going out on your back, mate, kind of way.
Yeah, which is interesting. But I don't think I was surprised by that because it's the Shield and I think they want to keep the Shield strong no matter what because at some point there's going to be a DVD and that's going to sell lots and like that match is going to be on it. I am surprised that they gave him such a feel-good moment on his way out. I wonder whether that's them trying to sort of keep any goodwill that they can. Hopefully, hoping that they can entice him back. I don't know, but we shall see. From what I've heard, it was a good match though. That's all I can say.
And then just in terms of lineups for AEW shows going forward, we've had Brandy Rhodes versus Ali and Kenny Omega versus Shima announced for AEW's third show, Fight for the Fallen, on the 13th of July. Omega and the Bucks versus Pac and the Lucha Bros has been announced for Fyter Fest on the 29th of June. So some really interesting matches in there. So I guess we'll see what AEW does going forward. But it really feels like we're ramping up the road to Double or Nothing. And I think the big thing in any other business we need to talk about, which really should have been in the news, but I totally forgot to put it in there, is Cody's opponent for Double or Nothing has been revealed. And it is the artist formerly known as Goldust.
Yeah, this is really cool though.
Yeah.
I really like this.
considering you don't need Cody to have a main event opponent, and this is not a shot at Dustin at all, but considering you don't need them to have a big caliber match because you've got the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Bros, you've got Omega versus Jericho, and even to a degree, Pac versus Hangman Page to me feels like a really big match.
Agreed.
Him doing this match against Goldust is quite a cool moment that can be on the upper mid-card portion of the show and provide a real feel-good sort of factor. And I thought
totally agree.
Dustin's promo that he cut on the road to Double or Nothing was really interesting and really well done, in the sense of it gives heat to the feud but without feeling like totally ridiculous, in the sense that they are still brothers and they clearly still care about each other, but there's a lot of ill will between them as well.
Yeah, and I think there has been through history. I think it's been spoken about. Obviously, with Dustin's had plenty of issues through his life and through his career, so that totally makes sense. But I'm actually looking forward to this match. I don't think it won't be a classic or anything like that, but it'll certainly be entertaining and it'll be a good addition to this show.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up for this week. We would usually have a final segment, but we're recording this on a Monday because of sort of plans some people had over the weekend. Cough, cough, Jonathon.
Scheduling reasons.
So we're sorry for this episode dropping a little bit late, but we obviously are kind of rushing it through to get it out tonight so that we are not falling a week behind. So is there anything you'd like to add before we go, Jonathan?
No, we'll return on Friday with our usual scheduled podcast, but no, nothing more to add.
And sorry, we're out of time. We'll see you on Friday on the Two Man Booth.